Yo, what is up guys, this is TyrantX1 here, and welcome to another game review. This time I'm going to be reviewing Red Dead Redemption, an open-world Wild Western action-adventure game developed by Rockstar Studios. Yes, I do realize Red Dead Redemption 2 has just come out, but I really wanted to play this game and review it, and so I could understand what might be going on in the second game. But yeah, better late than never. The story takes place in Western America and Mexico, pretty much the Wild West, but you pretty much go in between two countries at certain points in the game. But the year is 1911, so the glory days of the Wild West have pretty much gone over at this point. And you play as John Marston, who is a previous member of a group of outlaws who has been tasked by the government to either capture or kill his former partners, while also gaining his and his family's freedom in the process. Honestly, this does sound like a very interesting synopsis for a video game, and it obviously interested me. And the story overall goes through 4 arcs, or 4 separate points. You have the assault on Fort Mercer, which is the first part. You have the Mexican Revolution. Then you have you helping the government find Dutch, and then you pretty much have the aftermath where you pretty much have finished your entire task with the government, and then you have your time being spent with the family until the very end of the game where you have the sad outcome. Now, I did like the development of the story. It obviously got more and more intense as things went on, since John was getting closer to the end of his goal as he was slowly capturing or killing, depending on the outcome, of his former partners that he has to hunt down. And yeah, despite the fact that the story is split into 4 sections, I mean, it's very obvious when you realize you've entered a new portion of the game, since you pretty much have finished that final objective before moving on to the next area. But yeah, I thought the story, mostly overall, there are a few hit and misses around there that I'll explain, right? But overall, I thought the story was pretty damn impactful, and I did enjoy it for the most part. I will admit the story sections in the game do rank a little bit differently to me, in a way where the assault on the Fort Mercer portion of the story felt like the whole funniest section of the game, where John Marston is pretty much trying to get a bunch of strangers to help him out in assaulting this little fortress that one of his former partners is within, but he always keeps running into different situations, and the fact these strangers keep asking him for more things to get them, and Marston's obvious annoyance with the fact that he has to keep doing things really starts to piss him off, and I kind of thought this whole portion of the story was pretty funny. The Mexican Revolution is possibly my most favorite part of the story, mainly because it adds a political war in the whole midst of everything that's going on, and it's just the fact that despite there obviously being a side you would want to pick, you don't really know which one is better, since both the people or the main guys in charge are both pretty much snobby assholes, although one is pretty much worse than the other. But you just don't know which one to support, because both of these guys just don't seem like the right choice whatsoever. And obviously this whole section of the game makes you really think about from good or bad, or right or wrong, and you just don't really know which side you want to pick, because neither of these sides pretty much are good, or pretty much good at all. And I'm just like, wow, shit. It makes you think a bit, does this section of the story. I think when you get to the 3rd section, which is when you're helping the government find Dutch, the story sort of slows down a bit, and you pretty much have to work with these characters you don't necessarily want to be around. You pretty much just want to kill them because they're forcing you to do this thing for them, and they just continuously act like assholes to you. But the story, this part of the story does pick up a little bit more when a few of certain characters are killed, and then shit starts escalating when you actually attack Dutch's compound or place, and then pretty much at the very end Dutch gives off this very philosophical speech of sorts that makes him really stand out as a character, as I explained, and makes him the whole thing that he says actually does make a lot of sense at the end. And yeah, I feel even though this section of the story started off slow, it ended with a bang, in my opinion. Now, the final section of the story has John Marston reconnecting with his family and starting up his whole ranch business once again. Now, I wasn't really expecting the game to, the final portion of the game to end like this, mainly because I expected the final cutscene where John Marston gets attacked by the government. I expected that to happen immediately afterwards. I was expecting Marston killing Dutch, being done with the whole government. I was expecting a transition that says a few days later, or after a cutscene where he reconnects with his family, and then the transition of where he's being attacked by the government after a few days. But no, you actually have a portion of the game where you're helping out with your family, doing chores and other things like hunting animals, getting supplies, herding horses and cattle, and it kind of has John reconnecting with his family and showing his more fatherly side, which I thought was pretty nice, which I think made the ending a little bit more sad, since after everything you've done, it was pretty much all for nothing. I mean, we probably all knew anyway that the government were not going to leave John alone, and the fact that they were going to kill him anyway. But it sucks anyway. It's after everything you've done, and then John just sadly dies in the end. However, I really do like the fact that afterwards, after John has died, you continue playing the game as his son after a few years have gone by after his death. And it's the fact that there's a secret mission where you can find the dude that had John doing all this shit in the first place. I like how you can kill this guy and that's how the game ends. I think that was a brilliant way for the game to end, is where John Marston's kid is basically killing the dude that pretty much had him do all this shit in the first place. Now, moving on to the characters, there are an abundance of characters within this game, as all Rockstar games usually have, but a lot of these characters you meet are pretty much all very likable, or hate, but in a good way. Yeah, they're all made in a way that fits their dynamic, and I like that. I didn't really honestly, I didn't hate any of the characters with proper hate. If I hated a character, it's merely because they are made to be dislikable. I didn't hate them because of the fact that these characters do a poor job at what they do. I just hated them because they're just honestly dislikable whatsoever. And yeah, I enjoyed a huge ton of characters. I think a lot of the characters you meet early on in the first portion of the game, I thought those were the funniest characters, like Dickens and Seth, and yeah, those guys were kind of funny. And then afterwards, it's it gets a bit, the characters sort of hit and miss. The Mexican Revolution, it's that really starts to make you think, are these guys actually good? Even the rebel people, it's are you actually a good guy or you're just another asshole? And yeah, that bit makes you really think about the whole right or wrong situations and stuff like that, whether you're doing the right thing. And then afterwards it sort of goes downhill with the final portion, where you're with Dutch and everything, the government guys are you just hate them, and then the other supporting characters are fairly forgettable. And then you have the final bit where you're reconnecting with John's family. I thought his family was pretty nice, although I felt the way John acted towards his uncle was a bit harsh. But then again, Red Dead Redemption 2 should hopefully answer that stuff for me. But nonetheless, I think what surprised me the most with the characters in this game is the fact that the game would just decide to kill off its characters so randomly. I'm just whoa, shit. It's just when you start to get used to these characters, the game suddenly kills them off, and I'm whoa. Oh shit, wasn't expecting that. But it does this multiple times, and I'm even though it did catch me off guard each and every time, I was okay, this is getting a little bit tired. I would like these characters to stay alive just a bit longer, please, thank you. Because I think the Indian dude, I forgot what his name was, sadly, I felt he was introduced and killed off so quickly. And that kind of pissed me off, since he was that Native American character you're supposed to stick up for, because, he's the one who's been through a lot of shit because of all the other Americans who've come over and destroyed their land. And just the fact that he just gets killed and you're oh, fuck. That just sucked in my opinion. So yeah, it was just really weird how a lot of characters are introduced into this game, but quite a lot are just killed off randomly. And of course you have John Marston, the main character that you play, and this was a really cool character, was John Marston. Probably one of the best characters I've seen for a good long while in an open world game. At least he actually talks and actually speaks to other people, instead of just being a sort of silent protagonist you've seen either Fallout or Skyrim, which makes your character just emotionless and bland in a way, pretty much. But yeah, I liked the way he was as a character. He had a sort of honorable approach to the way things work in this world. Like, he pretty much respects a lot of people he meets, or everyone he meets. He doesn't really have, like, sort of any differences towards ethnicity, which would have been a huge issue during this point in time. But I really like he's that sort of character who's like, yeah, he will, like, pretty much work with any dude, no matter the race or color. And he doesn't really take the piss out of them. So yeah, he's a very honourable dude in that sort of aspect. But he's very short-tempered, and you can really see that during the first portion of the game where you're trying to assault Fort Mercer, where he really starts to get pissed off at all the guys all the guys who are trying to help him out. He starts to get really pissed off by the fact that they keep giving him more stuff to do when he really just wants to attack Fort Mercer and get the fucking dude he's after. And I can understand that, because this happens quite a lot throughout the game, as I'll explain later on. But yeah, John Marston as a character was really done well. But I think another problem that I definitely encountered within the game, despite the fact that some characters get killed off randomly, is the fact that a lot of characters you meet end up just disappearing or not being around for a long portion of the game until like a certain point. Like Bonnie McFarlane, who helps you out throughout a lot of the first section of the game, she just disappears pretty much throughout most of the game after you've rescued her from some bandits. She's just gone throughout pretty much almost all the game until the very end, after you've finished the whole mission where you kill Dutch, or Dutch kills himself. But yeah, that's pretty much when she ends up showing up again, and I'm like, huh, where the fuck have you been this whole game? And then you have like the Dickens guy who's also in that first section of the game. He randomly shows up during the whole like government part of the game where you're going to take down Dutch, and I'm just like, this is very random. It's like the game didn't know what to do with its characters once it had finished doing its stuff with them, and I was like, huh, what the hell's going on here? Now let's look at the world itself. Set on the border of Western America and Mexico, which is obviously the setting of the Wild West, I thought the map was pretty damn nice, and it was very huge and extensive for its time. You do need to remember this game is almost 10 years old, and for a map of this size and exploration is pretty damn neat. Obviously, since this is the time of the Wild West, or the end of the Wild West, you're not going to have any cars or stuff like that in GTA that you can usually drive around and do stuff with. The only few modes of transportation you have is either horses, carriages, or trains, and that's all you're going to have. I mean, sure, it can be a little bit boring at first, but you'll get used to it, and it obviously makes the whole theme of the Wild West that much better. The terrain of the map is mainly desert. I'd say about 80%, if not that, of the whole map is practically desert. But that is pretty much where the whole setting of the Wild West is, and I think the whole game gets that perfectly done. I mean, even though it might get a little bit boring to like look at all this like desert and like sort of savannah type like terrain and environment, there is like a portion of the game where there is like a snowy mountaintop area, and I thought that was pretty nice to have in later on in the game. But I think the best section of the game where the whole look of it looks great is definitely in Mexico. The mountainous range and like structures are very nicely done. I loved looking at the scenery in that area of the game. In fact, I liked looking at the scenery in every portion of the game, or every portion of the whole map, especially when you have like sunsets going down and everything. The whole cloud and skyline just looked really nice. There's also an abundance of animals and plants that you can either kill and pretty much harvest to get skins and stuff from them, and there isn't really much of a use for them other than selling them. I thought there would be a lot more use for like animal skins and plants other than just for like either getting them or selling them, or for mission purposes. I thought you'd be able to like craft stuff out of them or like make outfits out of them, but no, that's it. There's not really much else for these type of things, but it's something for you to do. But the animals themselves, there are a lot of like various violent types. Like you have wolves, you have coyotes, and you even have bears at some point. And those guys, well, actually, they're not that tough when you have especially when you have the Deadeye mechanic, which can pretty much kick their asses. But yeah, they can take a few shots in your rifle, and it is pretty much best to make sure you can avoid them. but then again, they're not really that tough, so do whatever the hell you want with them. But yeah, there is a huge abundance of wildlife, different sorts of birds, deer, and all that kind of stuff too. A lot of things that can't or will kill you. So yeah, it's always best to make sure you know what you're looking out for. Now, there are plenty of towns scattered around the whole map that have a load of side activities for you to do, like poker, blackjack, horseshoe throwing, and even night patrols where you can go out throughout the town with dogs trying to catch criminals for a little bit of extra money. And I really do like a lot of these side activities. Some are a little bit more harder for you to get like some sort of control of, while others are a little bit more easier. And I like that. It's best to have like some easier than others and some a bit more difficult. Otherwise, if they're all the same kind of difficulty, then there's really no point in trying all of them. But yeah, I thought each of the side activities were a lot of nice fun when you're having to pass the time. However, I would make sure not to cause any havoc while you're in these towns, otherwise the authorities will come after you, and you'll either be pretty much be sent into a prison cell for a few days, well, the time will pass like it's been a few days, or you can pay the wardens with a pardon, which is a very nice way to get out of some situations, or you have to actually pay them if you don't have a pardon. But yeah, pretty much you have the whole wanted system like you have in the GTA series here, but it's with a little bit more ways you can get out of the situation. And there is even bounties you can do with a dead or alive reward difference. It's always best to do these bounties by getting the dude alive, but you can't really do that until you get a certain equipment that you can use to make your job a bit easier. You'll begin having to kill these dudes at first, but luckily later on in the game, very quickly you'll be able to find a way to get them back alive. You will also encounter a lot of side missions within the game, or strangers as they like to be called, and these are possibly some of the most interesting side missions I've seen since possibly the Mass Effect series, if that. And yeah, a lot of the outcomes for these missions are very weird, if not quite saddening. It's a lot of side missions you do in other games, you pretty much expect to feel good out of them because you're helping a stranger who needs something done for them that they can't really do themselves. But the game does this in such a way where you're oh, you think you've helped someone, but then the outcome is either very dark or just really sad. There's one side mission I remember where you have to pick up roses or flowers for this old man's mistress, and then you find out that her decaying corpse is just sitting there in a chair, and you're ooh, I better get the fuck out of here. And you have another side mission where you have this really religious woman who's just in the desert slowly dying, and then you're trying to help her but you can't in the end, and it's well, shit, I wish I could have done more. And then you have this other side mission where you're you pay this dude to free this girl from his possession, and then when you go to check on her, you find out she's been killed by that very same dude, and then you end up killing the dude afterwards because to be honest, he does deserve that kind of shit for doing that. And so yeah, a lot of these missions make you think, shit, I wish I could have done better. Even though you've completed the objective, you wish you could have done more. And that's what I like about these stranger missions. You feel bad, or just sort of weird no matter what. Very few of them make you feel good by the end of them. So yeah, I really like the way they did these side missions in this game compared to other games. And along with these side missions or stranger missions and whatever else you do, it helps build upon your fame and honor morality meter. And I know a lot of games at this point in time were trying to sort of replicate that thing, they do, Mass Effect does with its Paragon and Renegade sort of separation, but the whole fame and honor system doesn't really quite work in this game all that much. I mean, sure, the fame system has people recognize you and you earn little small rewards, and the honor system pretty much has a way where people react to you. If your honor is low or negative, people will look at you in a bad way, but if your honor is good, people will see you as some sort of hero. But there's no sort of effective outcome with this. There's no big thing. But then again, Mass Effect didn't really do that. Well, sort of. I mean, number 3 definitely didn't do that, but yeah, it's just it feels like this whole morality system just doesn't go anywhere whatsoever. There's even challenges that you can do throughout the game itself, with ranging from sharpshooter, survivalist, explorer, and even treasure hunter. Even though these challenges are extensive and rank up over time, they're not really that rewarding. I think the only one that's really rewarding is the treasure hunter one, since each time you find a treasure chest, you do get a piece of gold that you can sell off and get some more cash from, and that's really good. And there's about, I think, 9 of these throughout the whole game that you have to look for, where you have to look on a map and try and find where the hidden treasure is buried. I think that's really cool. This was actually a collectible that was worth doing, but the other ones just don't feel worth it. I mean, I think they all go towards something. I mean, if you do all the challenges, you do get this outfit, but that's it. There's no point in doing most of the other ones, like the survivalist, which I think is the one where you pick up a whole bunch of herbs. It's either that or it's the skinning the animal ones. I can't remember which of the two. And then the sharpshooters, where you're just shooting down a bunch of animals too. It kind of feels pointless with the outcome for them, though. The treasure hunter one, yeah, I can understand that one. At least that's rewarding. But the other ones, it's you're just killing a bunch of senseless animals and plants, and you're there's no reward at the end of it apart from this outfit, and you kind of feel bad at the end of it as well. So it's really was not worth the time doing it. But yeah, I mean, these challenges are something to do, but they're not really all too necessary. You even have gang hideouts throughout the map itself too, like a lot of other things, and it pretty much has you going into certain areas and taking out all the bad guys within these sections, and it pretty much gives you a bit of a reward at the end of it. You can look around, get some ammo, get some ammunition, find some extra money and stuff like that. It's pretty much just another thing you can go around trying to complete. But it's a lot like all those other games where it's you have an enemy settlement or something that you go and attack and then pretty much get rid of them and all that, and you pretty much take it over. But the thing is, these don't disappear once you've done them. In fact, you have this sort of social challenge. No idea what the hell that was meant for, but it means you can pretty much redo these gang hideouts as much as you want. Instead of as example, Far Cry, where it's you take over an enemy encampment and then it's gone. It's it's taken over by your allies and friends. This time, these pretty much stay. They're still here. They don't disappear. You can do them as much as you want, which I think is okay. It means you can grind them out so you can get some more money and ammo if you want to, but once you've done them, you pretty much don't really need to do them again. Now let's move on to the combat mechanics. Now, I've always enjoyed Rockstar's combat mechanics with its third-person shooter aspect, which is in GTA and in the Red Dead series, and yeah, it's pretty good here. The whole aiming, the accuracy of the weapons is pretty on point. Some weapons are a bit more accurate than others, and so it's obviously best to make sure you know which weapon is the best at shooting the enemies with. The cover system, a little bit weird, since it doesn't always work when you're trying to shoot around from a corner or something, but it's alright. It's passable. It's not brilliant, it's not great like it was in Gears of War. That cover system is at least good. In this one, it's a bit touch and go. But yeah, I thought the whole shooting aspect and everything like that is pretty done well. Of course, you have your weapon wheel to access the different kinds of weapons around the game, and there is a decent amount of them for a game like this. I wasn't expecting to be the amount of weapons there were. There's a good amount of pistols, revolvers, shotguns, rifles, repeater rifles. There's even throwable weapons like knives, dynamite, and some other stuff, I think. But yeah, there is a bunch of weapons in the game that I was not expecting. And yeah, I liked every single weapon was a little bit different. Some were weaker than others and some were more powerful, which is good to have some sort of differences. And it means you have the ones you can pick out for later missions, as the missions do gradually get a little bit more difficult. Because the enemies, for some reason, do get tougher, even though there's no significant difference to show them that they're tougher. But yeah, the amount of variety in weapons is very nice to see. And in true Wild West fashion, you even get a lasso, which is definitely, possibly the most useful piece of equipment you're gonna have in this game, especially if you're gonna do the bounties and trying to capture them alive, because using the lasso definitely makes it so easy to get bounties alive. In fact, I don't think it's actually possible to take bounties alive without the lasso, because I did try it once and it just doesn't work without it. So yeah, the lasso definitely one of the best things you can use in this game. Although it does kind of surprise me that I was able to one-hit a guy with a lasso and end up killing him with it, which didn't make much sense. Also, some of the weapons have different ammunition types. Like, if you have revolvers and pistols, they're not going to have the same ammunition types. Revolvers have their own separate ammunition, and pistols have their own separate ammunition. Same with the repeater rifles and shotguns and, like, other, like, rifle types. And it's in the snipers, too. You're not going to have the same sort of weapon ammunition. So I like how the fact that you really do need to keep an eye on, like, the ammunition that you have for each of these weapons. Otherwise, you're going to run out and think, wait, should I have what ammunition for this gun? Oh shit, no, it's a revolver, not a pistol. So yeah, I really do like there's differences in ammunition for certain guns. We also have the Deadeye mechanic, which I thought was a very helpful mechanic in this kind of game. I think it's there for like casual players who are like probably not that great at aiming, but Deadeye is definitely useful when it comes to like taking out a shit ton of enemies in one go with your weapon, where you can just literally like go in slow-mo, aim, like get across on an enemy's head or something, and just rapid fire them to death, and it's pretty damn cool. I like that, but I feel like it's sort of there for people who are a bit more casual and not like veteran players of video games. I feel like Deadeye is just a mechanic in the game to just help people out and not improve upon the fighting mechanics whatsoever. I just feel like it makes things a bit too easy, but nonetheless, it's a mechanic I thought was interesting. Not only that, there's even like equipment you can use to heal yourself in bad situations like medicine, which can be very handy when you're going up against large groups of enemies who just have your ass being shredded, and then you just get like this little vial out and then you're like, yep, I can kick your asses now. Trust me, you're going to want to stock up on medicine because some missions will get ridiculous with the amount of enemies there are, and you're going to need as much help as you can with them. And in certain missions, there's even like heavy weapons you can use, like Gatling guns, or there's like Browning machine gun in one of the final missions. Even though these light scripted plot points, I still thought it was pretty cool to use stuff like this. Even though it doesn't have a Wild Western feel, it just comes to show how advanced technology is finally reaching this section of the world, and it's like, wow, shit. Outlaws are going to have a hard time with these things, and you're like, wow, these things can destroy a lot, because these things, they don't overheat, so you're going to be able to take out a shit ton of foes in like one fell swoop. But the one thing that really pissed me off with the combat mechanics is the melee. Now, GTA 5 is pretty decent with its melee system, but holy shit, trying to punch someone in Red Dead Redemption is completely and utterly pointless. Like, you think you're going to be able to reach someone with a punch and then you just miss or don't even reach them? It surprised me to hell when I thought I was within punching range and it didn't even hit the dude, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I got my ass kicked by gunfire, or the dude just getting like a shotgun out and then he just blasted me away, and I'm like, what the fuck? I should have hit the dude. I think this is because of, like, the lasso. I think the lasso is pretty much is your subduing weapon. So it's like there's just no point in, like, punching people in this game. There really is no point. Even though you have a knife with you, the only time that's really useful is if you're surrounded by wolves, and even that, if there's only like one or two of them. If there's like a whole pack of them, you're fucked. But punching this game is so pointless. I think even in the multiplayer, it's pretty pointless too. I think, yeah, pretty much. I think people only punch there just for fun and not actually to kill people. But yeah, punching. Don't do it in this game. You will regret doing it and it'll end up getting you killed. Now, when it comes to the AI in the game, it's alright, but it's not brilliant, especially in combat. Sure, they're pretty damn accurate with their shooting, but they're not really good at like trying to be moving around and everything from cover to cover. Most of the time, they'll just be in a position and stick there until you kill them. They're just like standing targets. They're just overpowered at the same time, though. I mean, yeah, sure, they can hit you from a good range, but they're not very good at trying to like outflank you or moving from different positions or anything like that. They'll just stand there, just shoot at you until you shoot them, and that's pretty much it. So the AI in combat isn't entirely great. It isn't until you're in like horseback situations where you're fighting on horseback where they actually do become pretty damn vicious. Trust me, you don't want a gang of bandits on horseback coming at you because they'll tear you to shreds. And fighting on horseback is a little bit difficult too, despite the way the horse's controls are, which I'll explain in a minute. But yeah, I feel like on foot, the combat with the AI is pretty meh, but when you're on horseback, it's like, yes, it's pretty damn sweet. That's the true Wild West fashion when it comes to fighting on horseback, and it's like, yes, this is the bit that was meant to be good. Speaking of horseback, the horse controls are a little bit iffy at first, but they're actually pretty damn good once you get used to them. And damn, the horses can be fast when you have like a good enough horse. You can get from one place to the other in quick succession, although it does get a little bit tedious over time, and it does make you want to use the stage coaches a bit more once you realize you've uncovered the whole map, and it sort of gets a little bit meh when you're traveling from place to place all the time on the horseback. But yeah, the horse riding is pretty damn fun for the most part. And then another thing about the AI is the pedestrians themselves. They're usually just doing their own thing, like herding cattle, delivering supplies on wagons, being held up by bandits, like maintaining shops or entertaining other cowboys or any of that sort of thing. It gives life to this world, and it's definitely it doesn't make it empty or anything, unlike Fallout 76. But yeah, the AI pedestrians, they're really fun to have around. Although they're kind of fragile. I mean, if you even nudge them a little bit, they'll fall over, and it's kind of funny but weird at the same time.
Mr. Marston, back in the land of the living, I see.
Figured it's about time I started paying back that $15.
Well, no time to waste. The horses are saddled up over here. No!
Also, if you're looking for variation in enemies in this game, you're going to be disappointed. They're all pretty much just either mercenaries or criminals or like Mexican soldiers or anything. There's no differences whatsoever. They're all just like a few hits and that's it. I think there's a few differences with like higher ranking officials like officers and stuff like that. And they can take like a few extra hits, but every single enemy in the game pretty much is able to take one or a few shots, and that's pretty much it. You're not going to find a lot of enemy variation in this game. Now, moving on to the mission and level design, I thought for the most part it was pretty good. There's a nice variety here and there, like sometimes you're on foot attacking enemies in wide open areas, sometimes, or a lot of times, you're on horseback going from place to place trying to get a person from here to there, or just like doing a race or stuff like that. I thought it was a nice variety in the missions, and it was a lot to do with them. I think the main, well, not the main, but one of the problems is that they can be pretty short. Like, they'll probably take like less than 10 minutes to do at times, and sometimes the bigger missions, I think, which is very far and few and only arrive at the very end of each story section, will take about 15, maybe 20 minutes if you're lucky. But yeah, the length of the missions isn't too long, which is probably why there's a whole bunch of side missions and stuff for you to do in the meantime. Because, believe it or not, this game, for me, as an open world game, and I thought this was actually pretty short for it, it took me about 23 hours to like finish the game. Well, I wouldn't say finish, there is like a 100% completion thing, but by the time I finished the game I was at like 86% completed, so I thought in that amount of time for a game like this is kind of short, and it did kind of surprise me. The main thing about the levels themselves, and this ties into the story and sort of hurts the story a lot too, and this was helpfully pointed out to me by Gaming Sin's Everything Wrong with This game, Red Dead Redemption. Go and check out that video if you want to. He pretty much told me that pretty much every mission or every story section of the game was pretty much the same thing over and over. You have to do this thing to get one thing, and then it's pretty much rinse and repeat in every section of the game. You're having to do something for somebody to get what you need, and that's practically the whole game. Looking back on it, that's not wrong. Every mission has you doing something for someone in order for your character to get something, and I'm like, that is actually very true, and it makes you realize just how repetitive the game is, which is very sad to see when you realize it, because I thought Red Dead Redemption was a very fun game with its mission layout and everything, but once you realize the whole like goal of each mission is practically the same thing, you realize just how repetitive it was, and you're like, well, that's pretty shit. For a game that is almost 10 years old now, graphics still look amazingly good. The map, the world, the environment itself, damn nice. It definitely replicates the whole Wild West feeling and everything. And something I definitely want to point out is the facial animations of the characters themselves. Even to this day, they still look pretty damn good, and I like that. It kind of amazes me how games like, well, as we all know, like Mass Effect Andromeda, which has such terrible facial animations, and you look at this game, which is like almost 10 years old, and it has flawless facial animations. Well, I wouldn't say flawless, but really damn good facial animations, and a game like Andromeda can't do that. You gotta give this game a lot more respect where it deserves. Now, the music itself, now despite 2 songs that were used to signify an important shift in the story, when you completed the Assault on Fort Mercer or like Took Care of Dutch, there was like a couple of songs that played that were really nice to hear, but the soundtrack overall was very forgettable, I'm sorry to say. Yeah, it had the Wild West feeling, but it just didn't like stand out for me, unlike some other games. Like Nier Automata, that stood out for me a lot because I loved that music. That was fantastic. But for this game, it was just, there wasn't much there. It was very forgettable, and I'm like, it kind of sucks because I thought Red Dead was a particularly very good game, but the musical area was kind of meh. And I was like, that's a bit disappointing. Now, before moving on to the multiplayer, which is the final section of the game, there is a lot of goddamn glitches in this game. Yeah, this game is almost 10 years old, but even then, I've seen games that are older that do not suffer as much as this game. There was a lot of shit that kind of pissed me off in this game. Well, at first it didn't piss me off. At first it was kind of funny with some of the glitches I experienced. But the more I played for the game, the more the glitches became significant and the more they started to piss me off. Like there was one particular glitch, like where if you killed an animal and sometimes their body would just disappear. That pissed me the hell off when I was trying to do a side mission, which was the Daedalus and Sun side mission, which, fuck that side mission as well, because I hate the fact that the beavers only spawn in like one location and that's it. So the fact that when I killed a beaver and its body disappeared, and it made me have to do that side mission a little bit longer, because it took me like an hour or longer to do that, and that just pissed me off when one of the beaver's bodies disappeared, and I was like, you son of a bitch. But yeah, there are some glitches that are kind of funny, like the fact that in some cutscenes you don't see like a particular person, you just see like a random floating gun. That was kind of funny. I like that. That was very funny with comedic value. It was kind of weird just seeing a floating gun being there.
Might as well. Not to open fire till I make a move. We don't want to give him a chance to escape. And leave DeSanta to me. I need him alive.
We will wait for your lead.
Also, the running animation of like your character, I don't know if this is just me, but the way John Marston runs looks like he's like trying to desperately run to the toilet, like as if he's about to shit himself, or he has shat himself. It literally looks like that. I'm sorry to say, it could just be me, but that's what it looks like to me.
Move! Out of my way!
I gotta go to the bathroom! You gotta move! I gotta poop! I gotta poop! I gotta poop! I gotta...
And also, this is probably one of the stupidest things to not have in the game, is the fact that your character cannot swim. Okay, yeah, most of the whole map is practically desert, but the fact that you can't swim in this game, the fact is that as soon as you hit water, or deep enough for your character, he just dies. That's it. I'm just like, what? You can't swim? What? In a Rockstar game of all things? Why? Why can't you swim? I mean, yes, true, there's like big rivers and there's like a giant lake, but that's it. But still, you should be able to swim in this game. Now moving on to the final portion of the game, and that is the multiplayer. Now of course with Rockstar, who have a big open like campaign world, you have to have the multiplayer too. Now this is obviously set in the same map as the main game itself, but the thing is, unlike GTA 5 or possibly even GTA 4, the multiplayer here is very empty and scarce. Now, yeah, I will admit, a lot of the people who play this game have moved on to other games since it's been out for almost 10 years now, but it's the fact that there's still very little to do in this game is what surprises me. There's a lot of things I encountered that were locked off by DLC or, like, packs that you need to get, and I'm like, why? There's like, I mean, sure, there's challenges to do, and there's a bit more compared to the campaign, but even then, they're kind of pointless. And then you have, like, gang hideouts to do around the map, and apparently there's these hunting grounds, but I could never access these, probably because I wasn't a high enough rank or something, I don't know. But the only things I really could do was, like, gang matches, which is team death matches, and free-for-all. That was it. Those were the only two game modes that I could do. Now, I don't know if this was specific to the ranking up of your character, which could then unlock other game modes. I was unclear. I had no idea. I didn't know if you could do races or not, because there was no, like, there was no icon for it. I didn't know if I had to rank up higher to, like, do races. I felt like the game was locked off. For me, a lot of things were locked off just because you weren't a high enough rank, and now that pisses me off quite a bit. The fact that I couldn't do a lot of things just because I wasn't a high enough rank, or because I didn't have the DLC. And if you're like locking off your game due to like DLC or like because your rank, it's very poor game design to me. Hell, even the customization of your character was poor. It's like you choose a specific skin of like a character with a random name or something from like a specific faction. You choose your horse, and that's pretty much it. You can't like change separate pieces of clothing. You can't customize the character's face or any of that. Now, I'm not sure if you could do that in GTA 4. I don't think you could. But a little bit disappointing there, to be quite honest. However, at least the, like, whatever matches that were available for you to play in multiplayer, at least they were fun to play. They were alright. I liked the map design. It was okay, set in specific locations, but yeah, they worked for multiplayer matches and they were kind of fun, unless you encountered a more higher ranking person who would literally kick your ass. But yeah, I thought the multiplayer, for what it was and what little I experienced with these matches, was pretty fun. So yeah, overall, Red Dead Redemption, even though people have praised this game to hell for years, I'm not so sure. It's a little overrated. I can see it because this game is pretty damn fun to play, but there is quite a few things here and there that stop it from being a very good or an incredible game that would get like a 10 out of 10. I was going into this game thinking the lowest it would possibly get is like an 8, and the highest it would get is a 10. But I'm thinking of more in between that. It's a very fun game to play, but there's just some things here and there that just aren't quite right. So overall, I'm going to give Red Dead Redemption... So yeah, that is my review on Red Dead Redemption. It was a very fun game, and maybe hopefully Red Dead Redemption 2 does try to improve on some things, but from what I've heard, it takes a bit getting into before it actually gets good. But as long as the story isn't like the same as this one, where you realize it could be pretty repetitive with the missions, then it will obviously solve this main issue, and hopefully the multiplayer will be more interesting too, but from what I've heard, it sort of isn't, so maybe Red Dead Redemption 2 might end up being the same. But nonetheless, I hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Leave a like down below, subscribe, share this video with like other people on other media stuff. Leave a comment down below what you think of the game, what other games you think I could do, and I shall see you guys in the next random video.